Into the Nexus is a production of amove.tv. Bookmark Amove TV for other great video games and esports podcasts. Into the Nexus is sponsored by listeners like you via patreon.com/ITN. Channel that tribute because it's time for Into the Nexus, the podcast all about Heroes of the Storm. Hello, everyone. I'm Garrett Weinzierl, and I'm here with Kyle Fergusson, as the two of us always should be. Except when I miss a show and you get Dreadnought on, it's the best episode of the year.
Well, it's going to happen.
Yeah, with Dreadnought compared to me.
Dude, it's only because you're such a huge seat to fill that I had to get a star.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, are you making a fat joke now, Kyle? Is that what you're saying? So you're saying my seat's that big?
I mean, we're all coming back from the holidays, so
actually, yeah, it's not a bad time to make those kind of jokes. I am very full of tasty food. Apparently, I'm not quite filled up on fantastic family and friends gatherings because I have one immediately after this show. Because that's still going on. But hey. We're here. This is episode 145 of Into the Nexus. This is the final episode for 2016. Don't worry, we're coming right back. We'll be back.
That thing a little bit, huh?
Yeah, we'll be back next week. We'll be returning to our Thursday night schedule. Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on twitch.tv/amovetv. During the day Wednesday times are over. It's done. The holidays have come and gone. All that's left is to buy fireworks that may or may not be legal in the county that you are in and fire them into the sky while cheering.
That's part of the fun.
Breaking the law?
Well, yeah. We at Florida State, where I went to college, there was a fountain.
Yep.
And everyone would throw each other on their birthday into the fountain. It was just what you did. So for a while, they tried to get rid of that tradition. They tried to post a security guard, which just made more people do it. So they then got rid of the rule, and nobody did it anymore. So by the time I was there in 2005, they had reenacted the rule, taken away the security, and everyone just did it anyway, but it was against the rules.
Right. It's just a challenge at that point, right? It's just like, oh, it's hard mode now. There's a security guard. Now I gotta do it.
Exactly.
Achievement unlocked.
Sure, he made some good tips, too.
Yeah. So, hey, man, it's the holidays. I know you and I spent the weekend celebrating, as Americans do, eating a lot, opening presents, giving presents, and, probably getting some smooches from Grandma or something. How's Heroes been treating you, though, in between all of the family and friend requirements?
It's been going okay. I ended up taking the weekend proper off from Heroes for family, for sanity a little bit, just because I was starting to see some warning signs early last week into Friday, and then certainly experienced them Friday. So when I just took a break, ended up starting and completing Undertale without really knowing anything about it. That was amazing. Ended up getting Steam controllers. So I spent most of the weekend on the couch, like an old-style gamer. Oh my God, I've forgotten how relaxing that is.
I don't know what Undertale is.
Oh, the music's incredible. It's a really creative take, an indie take on bullet hell games, if you've heard of those.
Okay. All right. I'm following you.
Kind of control the little spaceship and dodge all the stuff flying at you, but it is just very unique. It's been memed to death, so a lot of the stuff may be too big now, but you've never even heard of it, so I say go for it.
Cool. Very cool. I also picked myself up with Steam controllers, so that's neat, man.
Yeah.
Have you tried just for the hell of it, firing up Heroes of the Storm, trying to play it with a Steam controller?
Obviously, that was one of my first thoughts, and I was trying to think, who would I use? I think I might do Jaina, so I don't have to target any basic attacks. I can just aim the Frostbolt. Of course, I'll be doing this on cast on release and not quick casting, because I'll have to see that arrow.
That would be insanity otherwise.
But I was thinking if I had to do an auto attack hero, I might do Tracer, because when you hit A, you attack the nearest thing to you, and I might be able to move her around and just get in on melee for her melee attack, and then I'll be locked onto the right guy as I move backwards.
Okay. All right.
I think it can be done, but Diablo, where angles matter and into walls and stuff, no way. Anyone like that, no way. Maybe Gazlo I could pull off. but I think I'll start with Jane and Tracer there.
Nice. Well, please promise me you'll find a way to stream that if you ever try that, because I want to see you attempting to play Heroes with a freaking Steam controller. That sounds hilarious. I know there's guys that play Overwatch with bananas and plastic bow and arrows, but that seems like enough of a challenge. I'm interested in watching it.
Well, to be perfectly honest, the reason why I got a Steam controller over maybe just an older Xbox model that I can use a USB for, or even I've used my PlayStation controller on a computer before. You just have to download this really weird program and lay everything out in it. The Steam controller was shown by Gabe to be on his couch this many, many years ago when it was still in beta, playing Dota.
Yep.
And so that blew my mind that anyone would even attempt to do that with a smile on their face.
Yeah, they're really neat doohickeys, and we're not sponsored by them at all. It's a very creative controller. It takes some getting used to. It almost like you can kind of set it up to almost work like a trackball. If any of our age or older listeners remember trackball mice, you can still find them, but you actually have to go looking and know what you're looking for. But
you could probably go into a bar today and find one of those old golf games.
Yeah, actually, that's a good example as well. So it's neat, man. I haven't used mine enough, but I'm impressed by the hardware. Steam Link, on the other hand, which I got, not impressive. Not enjoying that thing. It freezes up like crazy.
The Link? Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah. But anyways, forward. So what made you take a break? What was that? What were the early signs you were seeing that was like, time to take? Maybe I shouldn't be playing as much over the holidays.
Well, for those of you who caught last week's solo Q&A, which was recorded right after the show, and there will be another solo Q recorded right after this live show as well, I went in there and my MMR is apparently incredible. I have no idea. I started fighting, or maybe I was being used to even out Grandmasters, but I went into a game and there was 4 Grandmasters in there.
Oh, God.
Then next game, 2 Grandmasters in there.
Oh, God.
Then I get my next game, and I'm fighting Sray. Not even fighting, I'm counter-banning against Sray. He's banning on his side, I'm banning on my side. I'm going, what the heck am I going to do? I pick up Johanna because he grabbed Vala. I'm like, if I can just maybe control Sray's Vala a little bit, we might be able to eke out this game. But he had a Morales, and that Morales said, hey, I know you, apparently, and just married the guy. And they were inseparable, and there was nothing my Thrall or anyone could do about it. He destroyed us. 13-minute game, 83,000 damage on this Vala. He did something really amazing, too. He got in on my Johanna in melee because the blind cone is widest at a distance. So by getting in on me at melee and then vaulting backwards after he made me whiff my blind, he avoided the entire thing.
That's genius.
It was a really cool moment, and it was a really cool way that he used the character. Now, of course, he couldn't have done those things without Morales there, and everything else was just sort of kind of hovering around it. The rest of it really didn't matter. It was just this Sray Morales battle. And I got completely stomped, and that's when I went, all right, okay. Played some more the next day, and then I started seeing the things that made me scared to continue over the weekend. First and foremost, it's Rhaegar's. Rhaegar is considered OP right now with Bloodlust. All the Rhaegars I was playing with at Diamond 3 were dying before they cast Bloodlust. They would Pharaoh lunge in, taking them too deep, hoping to once again, make some sort of engage off of that. You maybe, land the slowing totem. Everyone has to run away because they're too scared of you, Rhaegar support, diving so deep. And then you pop Bloodlust and Thrall and everyone destroys everything. That never happened. I had a 10-death Rhaegar. I ended up winning that game. 2 more games with Rhaegars on my team. I lost those, and they just kept dying with Bloodlust still on cooldown. So I'm going, okay, so clearly people are grabbing onto OP heroes, quote unquote, and not really mechanically prepared to execute these things. Then I started seeing more frightening things, like Thralls 1v3ing, putting out their Earthquake, getting decimated, and nobody cared. Like, that was okay. That was par for the course. Well, Thrall's OP, right? And he used Earthquake before he died. So
okay, so to quantify that, can you give me an example of something where people do care? Because what do you mean by that? What do you mean by no one cares?
The madness is that right now I'm practicing Zeratul, and I'm trying to get really good at Zeratul. I need another hero. I don't have Raynor right now. Raynor is considered OP, partially because of a bug. I wonder if when that bug goes away, people will continue to play him, or if they're just visiting. I don't know. But either way, Raynor's gone now. Tychus is getting constantly banned out because of Diablo being quote-unquote OP. Diablo's OP, so I'm not getting Diablo. So I'm really in the market here. I'm really struggling to draft my needs. And Jaina's okay, but Jaina's countered by Zeratul. And so I ended up picking up Zeratul. And when I see these, for lack of a better word, horrible earthquakes and these horrible bloodlusts, but I go on Falstad and I Mighty Gust, everyone has an opinion. And I Void Prison and everyone has an opinion. So my personal struggle right now, I've continued over the weekend, avoiding Hero League, practicing Zeratul. I think he's just about ready. But am I prepared for that? And that's something I need to gauge for myself. And, you know, this could be because when I got into MOBAs, I played, when I was really heavy in it, particularly Dota 2, I played support Venomancer. And I played a lot of support in those games. The supports in Heroes of the Storm are a lot stronger and a lot purer in their support role. But I always kind of took a back seat. And with Zeratul, I'm starting to take the driver's seat. I'm like Illidan. And in that way, too, when you are 4 levels behind, Illidan is going to look awful. And I wonder if Illidan players out there have just developed a thicker skin. I wonder if they know they're good. They're in their master skin. They've got their fancy mounts. They're doing as best as they can in that draft screen. And when the game starts to show that they know what they're doing, they go take camps. They play as smart as they can, but they get 4 levels behind because of the actions of others. And then Illidan can't do anything out there. He like literally can't. At least Zeratul can maybe get a sweet Void Prison, maybe make it work out. Really killing someone 4 levels up is nearly impossible in that situation. Maybe the Mighty Gust can separate and one person can be left behind. Maybe in that situation. So I've grabbed onto these characters instead of someone like Illidan. But now I'm having to learn, am I just, to do this Zeratul business, am I going to have to just shut down the disappointment? Because I know I'm better. I win more games than I lose. But in those games we lose, it's going to look real bad. And a bad Jaina in that situation would at least be able to put a blizzard over the wall.
Gotcha. Okay, I understand that. That makes a lot. So you started to. It almost sounds personal, right? It almost sounds like it was like an ego damaging thing. But I get what you're getting at, right? Like you're just kind of. We're a little winded with the popular picks of folks who may not actually be mechanically ready to take on that role.
And that is a system or a symptom of my league right now. I'm in Diamond 3. And with certain tricks that we have discussed before, you can get a Smurf very, very easily to Diamond 3. And I'm seeing a ton of neutral skins. And I did an experiment last night where I loaded up on Thrall. I ran out there. I did those 1v5s. And nobody cared. But everyone was instead criticizing the Master Skin Alarak on my team that messed up one of his telekinesis. So it's this weird system. And on top of everything else, you have maps. And so we have this understanding of heroes, and our hero leagues definitely reflect this, that everyone just picks OP heroes constantly, all the time. They're constantly fought over. But we have 11 or so different maps. And those change greatly what's happening. And when one band goes to RAG automatically, maybe not so much today, but certainly last week and the weeks before, the other band goes to Sylvanas, maybe, in like half the maps. We don't really know how to play to the maps. We're all just sort of stumbling to get OP heroes as they constantly flux back and forth.
Yeah. Which is why in today's strategy, we'll be rattling through some Battleground facts. Some we've talked about before. It's a refresher. Some we've never mentioned before. So we'll get into that. But thanks for sharing that with me, dude, because I'm glad to hear or glad to be reminded, because I've certainly heard it from you before, that it's not just all rosy in the upper echelon.
No, and I'm certainly not meaning to complain. This is and I was not personally hurt. I haven't had anybody in game truly get on my case about a bad Void Prison. But I am realizing in comparison that what I might be going for may be too much to chew. And I need to prepare myself to be that skilled, not play a support. Tychus is almost in need of support, right? But with these false stats, with these Zeratools, I might be able to pull off actual wins all by myself. And whew, that's intimidating.
Yeah, you can correct for your team's mistakes, which was what I was doing in Overwatch over the weekend with oh my god, Zenyatta. Robot Monk is what I almost said. can make up for so many mistakes on that guy. I need someone in Heroes like that.
Is it because of his heal in that game?
It's because of the heal. It's because one of the issues I was noticing was damage throughput, and you can just put a Discord orb on what you want to die. And then Transcendence, if the positioning of your team is bad and you get stuck in something like a Zarya ult, you're just like, okay, I just popped Transcendence, and this ult is canceled out.
That's true. I don't think we have anyone like that. I mean, closest to what you just said would probably be Tyrande and Shadowstalk.
Yeah, and even then, I mean, how many times have people still died after a Shadowstalk?
Yeah.
So it was just something interesting, and I'm bringing that in here because every time on Overwatchers, I bring a little bit of Heroes over there. So enjoy. Let's get into this week's Heroes news, shall we?
We're on, boys! Ha ha! Let's liven up this place!
The moment is upon us.
Yes, I'd mana tap that.
So when we recorded last week's episode, Zul'jin had been revealed for a whole of 5 minutes, I believe. All of his talents, or all of his abilities, none of his talents. Then immediately after we wrapped up recording, hey, his talents were put out publicly. But we didn't get a chance to talk about it on the show, so we're going to talk about them on episode 145. His talents are out, dude. What sticks out? We're not going to go through them one by one. That would be boring. But
And a lot of his talents are a little boring. Twin Cleave seems to be getting a lot of the attention to augment it into something that might be a little more useful in various situations. But the really exciting ones are, of course, what enhance his passive, his trait, and what the dream of this hero is. And every time a new hero comes out, I think a lot of us all get excited. Maybe this is the one for us. Maybe this is the one that can truly marry and just be happy with forever. And then you go, oh, he's actually really low output damage, Zul, and I guess I have to play this sort of laning style. Oh no, and you back out. Here, I'm really excited about Zul'jin's passive that allows him to increase his attack speed. So one of the really cool talents for this is at level 7. It's really basic. While below 50% health, gain 25 bonus attack damage. And you can combo that later at 16 with increased attack speed bonus of Berserk by 40%.
That's really this character. If I ever end up in a game where I have to play support and there is a Zul'jin on my team, I'm just gonna be screaming. It's gonna be having to make peace with Gul'dan all over again. I
don't know what kind of healing he'll like at the moment, actually. And here's a really weird one at level 21 or level 20. Armani Resilience. Restore health equal to 50% of the damage you deal while Tazdingoed. And Tazdingo is that ability where you can't be reduced below 1 health.
Right, that's the heroic. Well, one of the heroics at 10. And that, the fact that Armani Resilience is a thing at 20, that's making me think maybe Malfurion? Because if there's a talent at 20 that gives you health back incrementally over the course of dealing damage, well, why not just pair him with Malfurion and you can have health back incrementally for the whole game?
And that might be a good buffer, right? That Malfurion gets this heal out over time. At least you can Tazdingo if it gets too low, survive it while still having that heal. Then the second heal comes out on top of it a little bit. You're of course healing yourself underneath that.
Yeah.
Do these things stack? Is this amazing? I don't know. Right now it seems almost counterintuitive, but I see where it's going, and I see why you might take Tazdingo, not for Tazdingo, but for its level 20.
Right. And it's just, I don't know. It's one of those things you want to try out, right? Because it seems like with a Armani Resilience or a heal over time effect that you can see what you're hoping for, right? You're hoping that as you're taking damage, you're healing the damage so that your health is kind of at a stalemate at a certain point, kind of maintaining your Berserker buff for you, but so that you're not actually at a risk of dying, so that you're never at full health, but you're never at the risk of dying.
Could be neat. Yeah. I also searched through all these talents, trying to find something that could cause a stun lock or vampiric before level 20. There's nothing like that, though there is at level 20 Ensnare. Throw a net forward, rooting the first enemy hit.
Yeah, that seems really to be able to self root as a hero built the way that Zul'jin is built. This does seem kind of scary, right?
Quite powerful. Don't know how long it lasts. It doesn't particularly matter because now it's part of his kit. The real sad thing here is that it appears to be a skill shot. And if you get all the way to 20 and you're going to give up one of your other augments, I think you should be able to point and click at that level.
Yeah, I'll give you that, because it's not a skill you've been playing with for the whole game, and then all of a sudden it's like, shoot, I've got a line skill shot to worry about.
It's kind of the problem with Greymane and Mark for the Kill. Why would I even take the chance to miss? And now I feel like people are feeling that same way about Thrall. Why should I even make a difficult decision when I can instead just go, everybody's slowed? I'll be okay.
Yeah, no, I agree. Although Sunder has been in the meta so long, I'm finding the switch to Earthquake rather refreshing.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. We do have a seesaw problem, though, and I'm looking forward to 2017 and how those can be addressed. Hopefully, this also means that we touch old heroes as well, like Hinterland Blast. Hinterland Blast on a 2-minute cooldown, as to Mighty Gus 1 minute. Why two full minutes for Hinterland Blast?
Yeah, I got nothing for you. I like to go back real quick. I like your terminology of seesaw, because I'm assuming you're using that to invoke what's been going on, where Sunder was the hotness, and then all of a sudden Earthquake it becomes a new thing, and everyone just switched to Earthquake. We're on autopilot still on a lot of our talent picks. We're not making decisions based on what's happening. It's just like, well, Earthquake, everyone just knows how to play around, like how to utilize it now. Let's just go that route.
And then Rhaegar as well, now with the Bloodlust too. I think Ancestral certainly has its place. You will have games where people can't stop attacking Artanis. But is that big heal to Artanis going to be enough to cause any mistake? Or should you just Bloodlust in the first place? That's why we took Rhaegar. So I wonder too if this is a symptom of the maps, sort of what I alluded to earlier. Are we all just struggling so much to find heroes we can grab onto in a sea of so many different metas, one for each single map, that we all just go, I can't even consider being that creative, thinking that on my feet about my heroic choice. I need to know how it works. I'm practiced for Bloodlust. Let's just do that. That's easier.
That's all well put. We haven't really never really taken the time on this show to sit and talk about what possible repercussions there are for having multiple battlegrounds in a MOBA.
And I think that's definitely a big one. And it's, I'm also dealing with a lot of thoughts about this NA hate recently. And I've alluded to it in the past a little bit, but, Twitch chat in general has been hating on NA and Reddit as well. And, NA's bad. They don't ever draft for the map, and they can't even counter draft. And then you turn them and say, cool, teach me. And they go, well, NA doesn't know how. So I, as an NA person, don't know how to tell you. And you go, okay, then we're all part of the problem. What's happening here? Where do we get this good information? We don't know.
Well, I get it from you from time to time, depending on the hero, because there are certain heroes that you know inside and out, and you're like, well, in this particular case, I would go this talent route and whatnot.
Right, and my knowledge can only come to us, the new tidbits of knowledge only come to us because my mechanics get good enough that I then start asking greater questions. So this show and its strategy sections have evolved along with me, because there's not a one-stop shop for greater strategy. And anything the pros give us has to be, once again, sort of cut in half, because they're in a comms environment, and we're all playing Hero League often by ourselves.
Well, yeah, and that's the other
thing. Aware of the meta, and that decision to not soak bottom, and then I flew down there as Falstad, but now I'm off fly. That became a good decision because of it depends, right?
Yes. No, absolutely. And that was the other thing I was going to add. It's like the other thing to add to that is, how helpful is this to the vast majority of Heroes players? At the end of the day, probably not all that big of a deal. I mean, you said it yourself. You started asking those questions after you got your mechanics nailed down. So I'm not sure they're questions that the vast majority of players should be asking.
Right, they're simply not useful when you just need to hit your skill shots at some level, or you should be stutter stepping correctly, or one of those other sort of sprinkles on top you need to add in your league.
Yeah, mechanics, and then also your map mechanics. I still see wizards, mages, whatever, casters, if you prefer, getting landed on top of by a Punisher on the other side of the wall. Just stop. Why? Why are you letting that happen? So that's all things you need to be worried about as well. So that's why I'm not sure for the vast majority of us, these questions and these conversations are the number one thing we should be focusing on. Certainly not if you're new to the game.
No, you should just be probably picking 3 heroes that sort of even each other out and can fill all the roles, and having at those to the best of your abilities. But of course, drafting and these meta switches are going to take those heroes away from you. It's an interesting system. I am not disillusioned. I am not sad. I'm not angry. I just think this is a very interesting thing. And as a content creator, as someone who has taught so many people how to play this game, I just want to help more. And I need to ask the right questions, and our environment doesn't foster that. So a complete side conversation there, but an interesting one.
Yeah. My final point, too, would be it's a much smaller community than a lot of the other games within the same space as well. And that also leads to a dearth of information.
True. And maybe we have less people on top, so we don't get a unified voice of what we should do. We just have individuals telling us, and then the vast majority of players are gold, and the vast majority of streamers and content creators are probably in that gold platinum range as well. So we're all sort of revolving around asking the same questions without an authority.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about an authority, specifically one that builds Battlegrounds for this game. John Deshazer got on the official website this week and gave us a bunch of insight into Haunted Mines, why certain things were changed, and how maybe to use this information to the best of your benefit. And I enjoyed reading quite a bit of this. He started talking about why they doubled the amount of mine entrances and adding an entrance closer to both bases. And he said that the main goal with this change was to help the team who is behind in the experience curve, that players will have an easier time getting in and getting to the skulls. And I think this also goes directly into moving the boss into the center of the mines. I think it kind of helps with that Haunted Mines snowball. And that's basically what John said here.
I agree. I really like this. I think it gives you the option to get back in there if you died, but you already had that option. Now it's a true choice because it's equally viable for you to get back in there or go merc.
Yeah. How are you liking Haunted Mines, by the way? Because the more I play it, the more I like it.
I think it's great. I mean, I'm seeing very smart bans for it. Granted, you get rid of Ragnaros, and that's already a great ban there. And then you get rid of Sylvanas. So the fights have been very skilled, clean. You get rid of things powerful for the map, and I've been having a good time.
Yeah. Or you let them through, and things get really crazy, really fast.
Which hasn't happened to me. So I can't say, at least the first bans are correct where I am. I'm, of course, seeing tons of streams where people are letting Rag through, and the streamer's like, well, I'm going to take it, and they rock it.
Yes, yeah. I'm having to pull from our patron games because those are the only times I think I've seen Ragnaros and Sylvanas let through on Haunted Mines. But it seems to be working out. I also talked about new strategies for skull gathering, saying that there's more than one optimal starting location in the mines. And he said that having only one hurt the team who's behind. So you should notice a through line at this point with John Deshazer's comments, like Haunted Mines was snowbally, and if you were behind, it was hard to get ahead. And just about every single change that we're seeing was to specifically combat that.
Same thing with the golems now actually spawning back at their spawn location and switching lanes, of course, which is a great feature. But I like that there's some travel time in there as well. Yeah. And one reason I was asked yesterday, I was actually asked, hey, why don't you ever take Leoric on Dragon Knight? Couldn't you drain it just like you do the Terror? But I'd walk along with the Terror from their base. The fact that it spawns in the middle means I don't have as much walk time before the team is usually caught up with it and is there with me. So having actually that little tiny bit just further back from middle makes a big difference, so you can start burning that guy.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned that as well. As well as the fact that the golems rotate between lanes, per summon, basically. Another great change. And then he talked about the Sapper Mercenaries, and this is the thing I was the most interested in. He said that they've only put Sapper Mercenaries on Tower of Doom, but they really like how they've been playing on that Battleground and what they bring to the game, so why not bring them in here? So I love that he kind of just explained, well, we like it, and we like that they can be countered if you respond correctly. I dig it. I dig it, although... I will miss yelling knights when I mean bruisers and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think it's cool that we summon such a large, siege engine, basically. Mm-hmm. And then we have these ranged guys, these ranged mercs behind it. The mercenaries never really quite worked out there, though we did die for them a lot. I like the hole in the middle better.
Yes, I like the hole in the middle. I like I think this came up during the after show games last time. I like the tree placement. There's just random trees for breaking line of sight. Because I think you made a joke like, yeah, only an old school MOBA fan would get excited about tree placement.
And they are really exciting trees. In between, you have this diamond of merc camps, and in between each you have a set of 2 trees. And you can use these to break sight on the camps. So if someone discovers you there, you can run in between the trees, blocking the line of sight, and the mercenaries will return to their spot faster than if you run away in sight.
Yeah.
And remember, you get 2 chances, at least, on bosses, and my understanding of it. You get 1 kite that you can break, and then they go back and they sort of regenerate slowly. And if you do it a second time, then they sort of insta-heal.
Yeah.
So you might even be able to damage them up a little bit, then get back, do whatever you need to do, maybe use your Zul'jin heal, and then get back to it. Because you can't take damage during your Zul'jin heal.
Right. Well, wait and see. I'm excited for Zul'jin. He's perplexing, isn't he?
He is. He's very exciting. He seems like he's going to do pretty well in 1v1s, which is interesting because right now we have Quest Complete Butcher, which takes some time, and you've gotten to know the Butcher by the time he's able to really 1v1 anyone in the game there. And then you have Varian, who also takes some time to be able to do the 1v1, has to get to 10. I'm hearing a lot of people, particularly in lower leagues, saying, how do I deal with Fury Varian? It's like, well, you kind of kite him until your team shows up, and that's all you can do. You don't stand and fight the guy. Then there's a big, if my team shows up, and bronze players are going, my team never shows up, and well, that's an entirely different situation altogether. You should be taking Varian in that situation.
Yeah. I mean, that's a personal problem. But, well, very cool. We just kind of hit the main points. Go read the entire piece in its full by John Deshazer. We've had him on the show before, so go read it. It's on the official Heroes site right now. Kyle, we've had another eSports association pulling out of Heroes of the Storm. The Nile has left now.
Which is very strange because, as they mention in their sort of goodbye message, the team isn't performing poorly.
No, they're not. And the team, the members are going to continue playing.
Which makes sense when maybe a single StarCraft player or Hearthstone player maybe loses a patch on their jacket. But to have the whole team club just disappear on them seems weird. And this led me to investigate what is going on in esports and why do these organizations come and leave. And they're called clubs. In my research, these Denials, Fanatics, Liquids, all these sort of evil geniuses, they are clubs that basically work as agents for the players and give them a situation where they can practice best. And usually some money along with it, of course, because they're...
Well, that's part of the situation, making a situation where you can practice best, right? I mean, it'd be a lot easier to practice games all day long if you don't need to worry about rent.
Exactly. And one of the big expenses in this whole sort of environment is the house. And we don't have a lot of houses in Heroes esports. They were very popular in StarCraft. Basically, you have one house with about 5 rooms in it. You have all the players have their own room, and then you have a central practice area. You have another room for analysis, and these guys, by living together, conglomerate their ideas, get the most efficient practice that they can, and have their homes paid for them so they don't have to worry about rent. And their actual pay from the organization is usually between the range of anywhere from $250 to $500, $1,000 a month. Not a lot, but when your rent's already paid for, that's going to get you pretty far.
Right. Right. All good points to bring up. So then what is the issue with Heroes of the Storm? And again, this might not specifically be what happened with the Nile, but considering they didn't really elaborate, I mean, you did the best you could.
Yeah, Heroes is in a very weird spot. Heroes for 2017, and in fact, as they've done their qualifiers now, and we have our NA teams picked out. Some of them have to rename themselves because Blizzard has said we want a bit more of an official feeling to this. Let's get rid of the hot dogs and the dumpster tier all-star kind of things. Let's formalize it up a little bit, guys. And currently, those Strays team is coming back with Teamy McTeamface. I don't think it'll work out for them. But at any rate, this has already gotten going. And if you hold one of these spots, you are paid basically a retainer from Blizzard. They give you $20,000 over the course of your year to stay active in this game, to make sure that you can basically, and that's pretty darn good money, $20,000 a year, able to finance yourself and invest yourself in this game further. That's great for the players. And a club would probably take a percentage of that, would be my guess, just like they would take 20% or so of a team's winnings. But all that money, all the winnings that the hugest team in the world, the biggest CSGO team in the world, still only gives 20% of their winnings to their organization. And that organization, that's about 10% of the income they need to make to function and to grow their enterprise. You got to be able to expand other games, see what's on the horizon. You got to have marketing groups for all that sort of thing, photo shoots and websites, and things get expensive real quick. So that 90% comes from sponsors. And these can be letters on the jacket. They can be advertisements on streams. They can be, maybe a little bit of merchandise, but that doesn't go very far. It is sponsors. There are a lot of companies in this world that have a ridiculous amount of money. I mean, just picture a soda drink. They need to find a way to communicate to their audience. And they're basically sitting on piles of cash saying, give me a way to reach the people I want to reach in this age demographic. And you come to them as a club and say, we have reached these people. We are the way for you to spend those bucks that you're so, you have these unknowns about. We'll take care of it for you. So the real bizarre thing about Heroes is the players are being paid well right now. The organizations do not have a way to make money because the audience isn't large enough. It's an extremely passionate audience, but it's simply not the numbers that it takes for one of these soda drink corporations to invest in, because they just want raw numbers. They don't really care about the game itself. Yeah.
We've even experienced that on a one-to-one, like as much as a podcast can experience that, right? Because we don't really get a lot of sponsor inquiries for Into the Nexus. It's a successful show by all accounts in the hero sphere, but it doesn't pull in the download numbers of, well, like a Hearthstone show, for example. I can't imagine what show I'm alluding to.
No show with any personal understanding at all, which is fascinating. It is fine and it's healthy. People like to maybe complain about Twitch numbers, but at the same time, the people who play this game are extremely passionate, and Blizzard is clearly making money off this scene because their workflow and the bonuses they give, maybe it's just art for a splash screen that's going to be for the brawl. That took somebody 2 days, easy, and then you had to put it up. And these are all things that cost money. So clearly the game is a financial success for the company, but the outside scene just isn't large enough to bring in this extra capital.
Yeah. So I'm not, yeah, it sucks to hear, right? Like, I'm anxious to see what happens next year with the new league system, but it still doesn't seem like it'll be enough on the sponsor front, right? Like, that's not going to unless it brings in a massive change, a bigger surge of eyeballs. It's not going to change the issue of collecting sponsors for any of these clubs.
It's not, and that also means that we'll lack the structure that those clubs can provide, because it's very easy to picture these as evil, agents. Be there at 4 o'clock. It's my money, and hang up the phone and go back to the big old cigars. Like, a lot of these are really passionate people who are providing them with coaches and hiring an analysis and stuff like this, and making sure that the team is functioning to the best of its abilities and has the least amount of stresses that aren't in the game, taking care of their travel plans and stuff like this. But if the retainer is what's going to make people go into Heroes of the Storm, then they'll be working as individuals spread across their countries and their region and coming together for the final event. We won't have the caliber of games we perhaps aim for, but at the same time, to flip that on a positive, 20,000 compared to Call of Duty's 10,000 retainer and League of Legends' $12,000 retainer. If you are a low-tier player in one of those environments, you could make the switch if you currently do not function with a club in that game you're already playing. So this may, over the next year, actually bring more skilled players from their other MOBAs. That's one of the other things that cited as a problem with Heroes is there's not enough money here to encourage the true Olympic athletes of MOBAs to play Heroes of the Storm in the first place.
Which I can understand how they get to that conclusion.
It's pretty easy. I have infinite skills in the world. Where can I make the most money? Oh, cool. I'll play that game instead. If you are an independent agent operating, this retainer could be extremely seductive to you. And we'll see. And I don't even know how that money is divvied out. I don't know if it's given out in quarters. You get $5,000 for your first fourth of the year. If you got to stay in the whole thing. We simply don't know because it hasn't been dished out yet.
Yeah. So I don't know. I wonder, with that in mind, everything you just talked about just gets me thinking, what does next year and the years forward look like for Heroes of the Storm in terms of how clubs play a role in it? Are we going to see a move away from clubs and teams that run themselves and go out and find their own funding plus the retainer?
Which I guess eventually evolves into being a club yet again. Maybe
yes, to a certain degree, right? But none of the established ones, and maybe it's a member of the active roster that is doing a lot of the in between work.
Right, and the chat's calling for maybe some actions to be done, and that's another reason why I investigated this, is because it would be very cool to not only just inspiring to be able to give a awesome esports job to someone just out of college or still in college. It'd be a very exciting career to have to be able to manage a team and be a part of that scene. But it's going to cost you easily for a top tier team to do everything they need to do, travel internationally. It'll cost that club $600,000 to $800,000 a year to run that, a single team.
And that's a lot of money if you're trying to break in through, like the ground floor, right? If you're trying to come at this from a grassroots movement.
Exactly. And if I have the most winning team in the world, I'm only getting 20%. I cannot finance, let alone their health care.
Yep.
So it gets expensive real fast.
And again, just want to reiterate, we're using the Denial headline as kind of the jumping off point for this conversation. Denial hasn't said that this is the specific reason they left Heroes of the Storm. But
that is true.
When you don't give a reason, I mean, there are conversations to be had.
There you go. We made that all up for you, Denial. Now it's time for you to post an article with some real facts in it. Let us know what actually happened.
These jackasses were completely wrong. It's because they smell funny.
Or the team underperformed of the standards they require of a Denial team. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. Could have been many reasons, but the fact that last week I think we reported on Team Liquid leaving and now Denial is leaving. There has to be a through line, right? So anyways, let's move on to strategies. But before we do, let's thank our patrons over at patreon.com/ITN. Just 5 minutes ago mentioned how this show, while successful by Kyle and I's standards, doesn't necessarily pull in the numbers for traditional sponsors. So we really thank the patrons over at patreon.com/ITN because you are our bosses directly. You are the only source of income for this podcast, and we really do appreciate it. So this episode, let's thank Kalebi. It's a handle, and I don't know how to pronounce it. Nathan H., Mark, no last name given, Jonathan K., Vildoran, Wago, Anthony R.S., and Luke, no last name given. I'm going to assume it's Skywalker.
Good assumption.
That's what I can do. So thank you so much for supporting the show. If you enjoy Into the Nexus and you'd like to support us, patreon.com/ITN is the best place to do so. Now, let's hit up some Battleground facts.
Choose a talent.
Choose a talent.
Talent? Ah, that seems generous.
Don't reveal our plans to our foes. I mean it. Not a word.
So it's been a while since we got into Battlegrounds and maps and talked about some of the hard things, like hard truths you just keep in the back of your mind. So let's do it again. And like I said at the top of the show, some of these we've probably covered before. Others I don't think we've ever even touched on. So moving through, let's start with Battlefield of Eternity. For example, the first immortal always spawns top and bottom. And the first swap is always to the enemy's sides. All future immortals are completely random. We can't help you.
But that first one is where you're going to build a snowball that you might be able to hold on to. In particular, this is where you'll get 10 before the enemy team, perhaps. So this is really important to know. I will not ever put timings in this show. I've done it in the past. Never again. They simply turn to mush in your guys' ears. This is a radio show. If you want really specific information, Nexus Masters, nexusmasters.com just updated their map section. It is incredible. It is the place where all these tips are coming from. So check out the actual website for the exact numbers. But keep in mind, they're always in the same location in the first go.
Well said. Blackheart's Bay, the fountains near keeps, and we're going to get a little bit of numbers in here, but I promise it's interesting, have 2,100 health and 700 shields, which equals 2,800 life total. One cannonball hit should destroy that fountain. However, a Tassadar shield can force a second cannonball to hit that fountain. And then fountains near forts have only 2,200 life overall. But again, Tassadar can still force a second cannonball there if he takes the reinforced structure talent at level 1 or if he's level 15.
So an interesting interaction. You're actually able, with Tassadar and Blackheart's Bay, to force one more cannonball when they aim on those fountains. That's awesome.
I can tell you wrote this because you're a Tassadar fan.
Well, it was on the site there, and I found it interesting. I want Tassadar to come back. I just think his damage is too low. I feel like I'm really just walking the dog Illidan here. And just being like, all right, play nice. I hope we win.
Illidan doesn't play nice, though.
No.
At all. So on Braxis Holdout, beacons progress by 2% every 0.6 seconds because 0.5 was clearly way too fast. And they go straight from 0 to 100%. That only will take 30 seconds, if uninterrupted. Interesting
to think about. You might, with only 30 seconds, because you war over those things for a long time. It's easy to think it's a long battle for it. But, if you think about maybe that you're Muradin and you're holding the point and it's only, it's only got a third left and your avatar lasts 20 seconds, maybe you just stand on it.
Yeah. On Cursed Hollow, a lot of talk about rows and columns. I'm assuming you're imagining you draw a grid line on the battleground.
Exactly. So you have 3 columns of these tributes, 2 in each column. You have, of course, the ones that are on the left side, one that are on the right side, and the ones that are basically down the middle.
Gotcha. So what is happening there? And that needed to be explained because the first tribute of the game always spawns in one of the middle columns. So always be relatively in the middle of the map, whether it's more towards the bottom, more towards the top. That's unknown. But all tributes are partitioned into sets of 3. And the way that works out, apparently, is the first, second, and third, that would be a set. The 4th, 5th, and 6th would be a set. In between that is not a set. So, like, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th does not a set make. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, so on and so forth. And that is important because of the following. Kyle?
A tribute cannot spawn in the same spot as part of the set. So 1, 2, 3, your very first tributes, those will always be in different locations. However, if that doesn't cause someone to get a curse, you don't really have that beat that changes your brain in that instance. Mm-hmm. We are now in a different set. That next tribute could appear anywhere.
Yeah, so look in the bottom right-hand corner if a curse hasn't happened and do quick math, because that will remind you, at least until the first curse, what curse number you are on.
So it's pretty simple. You ride out on Cursed Hollow, it's the beginning of the game, and it gets to about the 2-minute mark, and you have no health. You're going to hearth back because you're going to save your well, just in case it's in range of one of the tributes. and you're going to then ride into the middle. You may have been bottom, you may have been top. You're riding into the middle now because you know it's going to spawn somewhere and you want to be in range to react to it. That spawns in the top. Now it can spawn in either the top or the bottom, but if 2 spawn in the top in a row in one of these sets, it is guaranteed to be bottom. That's the set of 3. Now the next one could be anywhere.
All right. Any final remarks on Cursed Hollow?
Not anymore, because that gets confusing real fast.
All right. There's additional notes in the show notes if you would like to see. Dragonshire. This is just pertains to the Dragon Knight's duration. It lasts 50 seconds plus 2 additional seconds for each full minute of game time. So 2 times however many minutes it's been. And for this example, Kyle, you gave the example of 17 minutes, 54 seconds. The dragon will last 84 seconds.
I didn't know it even increased its time.
Yeah, that's interesting. I always thought it lasted longer, but I never knew what the value was. So
and people are always like, the first dragon done at the 4-minute mark. That's a bad dragon. Don't even care about it. Now we can actually add some real facts to that. Not only has it not been scaled up in damage or anything like that, but it's actually lasting a shorter amount of time. In fact, the go-to strategy right now for the dragon is to destroy walls. If you get a first one, there's no way you're going to move on a fort. Nobody's really powerful enough. Most people haven't unlocked their next movement ability, their range, whatever it is at 4 that might empower them in there anyway. So take out the middle wall, then head top or bottom and take out one of those walls. Don't even bother with forts if you get an early dragon.
Yeah. The Garden of Terror in total, in a single night phase, that will contain 180 seeds. So there you go. The other one that I didn't know is apparently the pod image next to each team's seed count is either open or closed. And if it's closed, that means that there are not enough seeds remaining for that team to get a terror.
I didn't know that was a graphic.
No clue that was a thing. That's kind of cool.
The cool thing is about the initial fact you gave there that the 180 means only one team can get a terror in the first phase. I often see both teams get 90 because they just sort of split evenly, and we do a gentleman's exchange for the first one. Maybe a couple deaths here and there, but it usually works out to be 90-90.
Yeah. It's very. I'm also very typical in my games not to see a terror on the first night phase. But man, I didn't know that about the graphic. That's really cool.
Not like it's gonna inform you of much, but it could if you're not doing the mental math.
Yeah, I think what it is if it's closed, relax. It's okay to give up a seed or 2.
On both sides.
Yeah. I think the closed pod should just be a relaxing visual, is what it should be. Infernal Shrines. You can tell which Punisher it's going to be by the color of the shrine. If it's a purple shrine, it's an Arcane Punisher. If it's an orange shrine, it's a Mortar Punisher. And if it's blue, it's a Frozen Punisher. It also comes out and sings a lovely song about letting go.
It's moments like this that I kind of wish it didn't do the leap. I wish it had more power to its elemental preference. Because then it would sort of matter. Right now, you have the leap that gets in the way of the elemental preference. So if we're all fighting over a shrine and we're both 38 of 40, both teams, nobody's going, man, we got to get out of here, man. That's going to be an ice. Got to run for it. And on the flip side, no one's going, oh, we got to fight hard for this one. This is an Arcane. And man, Arcane's messed them up. Granted, we shouldn't have Punishers that people go, oh, that's just a fire. That's a mortar one. No one cares about it. We'll let it rot.
But it would be more like actual Diablo. There would be affixes where you're just like, we got this.
Yeah.
Which I think I might actually like. But then your randomness gets in, and actually, let's yeah.
You just brought up the key reason why this should be avoided.
Yeah. Because, what if Arcane is the best one and you get more Arcanes in a game than anything else? So, yeah, there's that. By the way, if you're curious, you have a 0.0148% chance of having the exact same objective spawn location and Punisher type. Not impossible, but extremely unlikely.
I think because of the general map knowledge is so low, this wouldn't really come up in an esports game, but it would be interesting to see a team completely whiff it because in this small chance, and end up spawning exactly where it shouldn't have been.
Well, it's not that it's an extremely low likelihood of it spawning in the same location. This is a combo here. That is the chance of it being the same location and the same Punisher type as last time.
That's true.
Moving on to Sky Temple. I know I've covered this before, but it always bears repeating, especially if your Sky Temple is maybe one of your lower win rates. I don't know anyone on this show where that is true.
No one has trouble on Sky Temple.
No, not at all. So the first temples...
I've been doing fine. I turned it around.
Oh, you turned it around? Okay,
Sorry.
cool. All right. I'm glad you snuck that in there. So the first temples will always spawn in the same order. Top and mid will always be the first temples to spawn simultaneously, and then the bottom temple, and then after that, it will be bottom and a randomly chosen temple. That's always how it opens. So you can always guarantee top and middle first, bottom second, bottom, and either top or mid third.
You should memorize these.
Yes.
You do. The second phase is always going to be in the bottom. You should be rotating your solos, your specialists, and making sure that lane is controlled. Before the bottom, and this is where I turned the win rate around. I'm dead serious here. Controlling mercenaries is how I turned my 25% Sky Temple win rate into a 55 recently. That's not stellar, but still, it's pretty darn good.
This is the kind of battleground where it is so... it is so memorable. The timings... Well, not the timings, but the spawn locations. It's so memorable that I almost wish it was just on a tooltip visible on the loading screen as you're going into the battleground, because I think Sky Temple is a good battleground as a teaching tool to get players thinking about memorizing timings, memorizing spawn locations for objectives, so they start thinking about when you should report to objectives. So I would kind of like it on Sky Temple if they just spelt it out. Like, as we're loading in, remember, guys, it's always the first. It's the first one's always top and mid. The second's always bottom, and third is always bottom in a randomly selected temple.
It would be helpful. One of the problems with also, teaching map specific is the timers change. As you guys know, when the temples go up, that's always the same time. Sky Temple, the temples all activate, or spawn, I should say, and then become active at 1 minute 30 seconds. Not a lot of time, but if nobody takes those temples, if you fight over them for half an hour even, that next phase hasn't begun. So we can't work out sweet little timers that you can put up on your side screen to help you go through the whole map, because there'll always be variables.
Yep, it's a good thing to add to your heroes notes if that's something that you do.
But if you're interested in this Merc control style of Sky Temple, first temple spawns, you got to deal with them. When that's done, not until it's done, do you start thinking about putting your bruisers active when everyone's going to be in the bottom. So you want to sort of time it out in your head. Those bruisers will come active at 2:30 minutes. Oh, gosh, we're already doing times. I'm sorry. But take them as the bottom's about to pop, and then you do your siege as well. Now you have siege in that bottom lane with you. It gives you control. Maybe with your siege you can push forward, take out the enemy wall, and take, more importantly, their healing well. Now you're fighting the bottom. They don't have a wall to hide behind. They don't have a healing well. You usually win that. And I bring up Zarya because she can hold the point and has the range to poke and send out shields into the fight that's happening while she controls the point.
Very cool. On Tomb of the Spider Queen, if you didn't already notice, Murky, the Lost Vikings, and Misha each drop 1 gem upon death, which is different from every other hero in the game, which drops 3 gems upon death.
I've seen the gems. I never really thought to
count them.
Get a process, yeah.
I don't see Murky or I can't remember the last time I saw Lost Vikings on Tomb of the Spider Queen. Or Misha and Rexar, for that matter. I haven't. These 3 heroes, I can't remember the last time I've seen them on this battleground.
Probably not personally. Rexar comes up a lot in pro play on Tomb of the Spider Queen because you can bring those gems back to you, and Misha can. The second she takes them, they transfer over to Rexar. While she dies and drops a gem in this case, they're still being funneled, which is really powerful. But Murky, Lost Vikings, these are all guys who are going to drop a lot of gems. Same with doubloons and all those sorts of things. Murky, Lost Vikings on Garden Terror, however, where they just sort of disappear into the pool, that's great.
Yeah. Also, I can remember this exactly. I have seen Rexar once this season, and it was on a Battlefield of Eternity game that I lost. He was on the winning team.
Cool.
Yep. Towers of Doom. The first and fifth set of altars always spawn as 3 altars at once. Other sets always spawn as 1 or 2 altars at once. So remember, first and fifth. I don't know how I can help you with this. Get a Post-it, make little hash marks.
You'll be so just caught up in the game by the fifth, but the first is always 3.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really, really good to have a plan for the first one. Usually, you'll have a solo laner somewhere, usually in the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Brightwing's up in the top, and she's able to join either. I'd like to have a poker down in the bottom. Put your Rainer there, your Thrall there. Maybe, hey, if you're rolling with a Chromie, you could put her down there. Just someone to sort of pad it out, and then we all together as 4 invade the enemy side.
I like that as well. Chromie's good. That used to be my job on Zagara. I'd spread a bunch of creep, and then I'd just be dropping roaches and throwing banelings at the shrine for days. And
nothing's wrong with Zagara. She just isn't the best solo laner anymore. I'm still happy to see her.
Really? I haven't seen any Zagara.
No, I don't see any at all, just because there's stronger options and people have their preferences of things they'd rather see. But when I do see a Zagara, I know they're passionate, kind of like Kerrigan, even though Kerrigan still has a great win rate. Mm-hmm. It's not top tier enough that you're like, all right, he's good.
Yeah.
Why would he be playing that hero?
Yeah, this one was lost on me. I didn't know this. When the tunnels open at 12 minutes, and tunnels are important. I'm not about to give you an important thing about tunnels. All forts upgrade to keeps, which means their kill experience given goes up to match that of destroying a keep.
Yeah, changes their health and shields as well.
Yeah, towers and healing fountains also upgrade, affecting their HP and shields. So keep that in mind as well.
I didn't know this.
Yeah.
Because they respawn and you're constantly juggling back and forth between control of the towers, it probably isn't worth it to say, hey guys, let's wait till the tunnel opens and then we'll destroy their buildings. But I have seen a number of strategies that really involve something along these lines, where you almost destroy the forts and then you take them all together in a big sweep, as long as the enemy doesn't have a mule.
Right. Well, even if they had a mule, what are they going to do? Drop it while you're attacking it?
Right, they would heal up the one you're not on, and you're leaving them all damaged, so you can take them in one big wave.
Oh, gotcha. Fight. I missed that point. My bad. And then Mercenary Lord increases the kamikaze damage siege mercenaries do. That's super cool.
No. It doesn't augment the damage they do to the core.
No. Just to the forts.
But that's also important to note because Sonya has had a big resurgence. Talked about her a little last week. But Sonya's had a resurgence on Haunted Mines with a Mercenary Lord talent pick. And you can see why.
Yeah. I'm so glad Haunted Mines is back, man. It led to very specific and weird strategies before, and it's doing it again.
But now with some counter action to the snowball, and they added some new elements in there. I like it.
Yeah, absolutely. Finally, Warhead Junction. The number of nukes is fixed and cycles. So objective spawn number 1 has 2 nukes, number 2 has 4 nukes, number 3 has 2 nukes, and so on.
Sweet.
Very
Try
cool.
to keep that in your head across this huge map.
Yeah.
But it's very helpful.
Interesting information. Hard to think of in the heat of battle.
Oh, there's so many spawn points too, and these things can be tough to get to. Though it is now, and I do want to put this out there, it is now the accepted strategy that you should, if you get early nukes, these are like the first nukes of the game, just use them to destroy the outer walls. Just drop it, get the healing well, get the towers. Don't worry about the fort so much. Just get all that XP you can, and it's going to be a big contribution to your team, as well as just getting rid of those things in the first place, so a mercenary can push to the fort later. If the wall is down, that means it's exposed. And you shouldn't use a nuke on an exposed fort. Maybe a keep because you're going to get yourself catapults there, particularly if you're sneaking it by yourself and you're that deep. But forts, don't ever use a nuke to kill them.
Good to know, because I do that all the time.
We all do. It's our newest map, sort of, except for Haunted Mines, but it's still figuring it out. So, and this rule may change. We talk about rotations, and those change every other week as people find more optimized ways or movement speed ability changes. And if Falstad's barrel roll no longer takes him over terrain, then the next thing will change, right? It's a very fluid game, but this is our understanding at the moment. In a vacuum, it depends.
Yeah, I think you're low, like on Warhead Junction. Like, it's cool that we know the first spawn has 2 nukes. It's cool that we know the second spawn has 4 nukes, so on and so forth. But what's like you said, there's so many locations. I think what's more important on Warhead Junction is being fluid, taking note of where they spawn, and adjusting your play accordingly. I think the number of nukes is significantly less important than paying attention to where it is that they popped up.
I agree.
So, all right, that's going to do it for our fast, not as fast as we probably expected to be, map tidbit battleground factoid little strategy section there. Hope you enjoyed it. Now let's take an email or two and wrap this thing up.
Darkness stopped calling.
I hear the wilds call. Wait, nature calls.
Okay, tell them I'm not here.
You can send your emails to itncast@gmail.com. And the first email today comes to us from Nicole, who writes, do you have any tips or exercises on how to get over tunnel vision? How can I train myself to see more of the team fights? I find it difficult to observe the whole battlefield, and I am so narrowly focused on my own hero and the person I am trying to kill that I miss the movements of the other enemies. I sometimes die because I am out of position from that. Also, I miss my teammates' sweet moves, like if they had a good ult or CC that we could have taken advantage of. For me, it definitely seems to happen the most when I am an assassin. Thanks, love the show. You are so not alone, Nicole.
Yeah. There are many, many instances of this, but the saddest one is often when you ride into a lane and you're one of the ganking characters, and that player doesn't recognize you're there, and they don't make themselves juicy, or they don't take a little bit of damage to maybe seduce the person. If you're Kael'thas, you don't start hearthing in lane and make them go nuts for you, and then you gank them or something like that.
Yeah. I've started just I don't know, like to develop to the best of my ability peripheral monitor vision, and I don't know what to tell you here other than move your eyes around, look at what other people are doing, keep looking back at yourself to make sure your character's not moving in a direction that you shouldn't be, and what so far and so forth. But, and this is something that's really hard, by the way, for me to do on a melee hero. If I'm on Thrall, oh brother, my tunnel vision is awful. It is just terrible. But in a lot of cases there, I might be calling the shot with a wolf root or something, so it might not be the worst thing in the world. There's certain heroes I think it might not be as bad on. Like if you are a shot caller, if you have an ability that people do want to follow up on, it's not as bad.
Certainly, like ETC does a power slide in, then moshes the whole enemy team. Nothing wrong with that situation if everyone's in range. Did the tunnel vision cause you to make that move, and now you're moshing without any damage to follow it up? Then it becomes bad. Those sort of things can be the real extreme examples of. If I were to give you homework, because what we're saying is, of course, the advice, well, just stop. And that's not going to help anybody. Better homework would be to go play Brightwing. Play Brightwing for a bit. When you have nothing to click on, take your mouse and hover over your passive, your heal, and think about that circle and really look at it. And then when you teleport over to a fight, continue to think about that circle size. Is it covering everybody? Is somebody maybe wandering outside of it? How can you position yourself to be in a strong location to still get out the polymorph, still get out that 20,000 damage I always want you to have by the end of the game on someone like Brightwing.
But
and
at the same time,
you think about your position. And once you start thinking about your actual positioning, all that awareness will fall into place. This tunnel vision is because you get kills, you feel good about it, you walk away, and you're probably playing in an environment where a lot of 1v1s happen. Brightwing, for me, is the preferred healer with a double tank. So if the tanks are rolling in, make a triangle. Always be making triangles in your head. You got the 2 tanks in front. Great. You're behind them because you're ranged. That's your place. And now you're spreading your heal naturally over them. If Raynor shows up there, make a triangle. You're in between Raynor and the double tanks so that the heal is hitting everybody. If one of those tanks leaves, now you have a straight line. You're hiding behind the tank and you're still protecting Raynor. And this constantly is evolving as players die and change. And what if everyone dies and Thrall runs in? Like, it's just you and Thrall. Well, he's the tank, as we talked about before. And once you start thinking about your positioning in these ways, you'll stop having tunnel vision because all of the other parts are completely dependent on each other. And there is no go solo shark mode nuts man. It's informed aggression. That Vala is able to be that aggressive because of Morales. And Vala's understanding of what Morales has shown in the early game, if you're solo queuing. If you're team leaguing, I can say, dang, man, you're amazing, Brightwing. Let's go. And just go ham and whoopsies. And just have at it. And that'll be that.
Yeah, well said. I love your suggestion of playing Brightwing. I can't believe that didn't cross my mind considering how many hours I have logged on Brightwing. But yeah, really solid advice there. And again, just train yourself to look around the screen. This is something, if you're trying to train yourself to look at the mini-map more often, it ties right in as well. Just move your eyes around. Look at different sections of the screen. Do not just be focusing on your hero.
You can also just simply Google map awareness, and the very, very top video will be an hour-long video of a guy saying map every 4 seconds. And if you don't want to do the Brightwing homework, this could be a very simple way to just keep it in your head.
I also really love Oblivious in the chat room who says, just pull up an online metronome, set it to 10 beats per minute, and you'll have a timer telling you to look at your minimap every 6 seconds.
That's true. And there the exercise would be counting. You're counting the enemies, and if you count all 5 elsewhere, you push hard as Sylvanas. Informed aggression. Same with positioning.
Yeah. Although I love that some dude made a YouTube video. It's just... Map.
Oh, and it's ancient. It's ancient. It's been there since 2 years after League of Legends came out.
Map. Go ahead and cap this and make your own. I don't care. Mini map.
And if you want some these actually for Abathur and Lunara, I was thinking about picking up Lunara at the end of season 1. Maybe she could be a carry assassin for me as I expand my roster. I ended up putting together a video that I listened to in the background where I would say Wisp whenever it was on cooldown. And so I got out enough Wisp over the course of the game. I did the same thing for Abathur with mines because those come up so frequently in charges. It got a little insane there because you have the charges that build, whereas Wisp is a flat 30 seconds, lasts 45 seconds. So with a 45-second Wisp timer, I was able to keep it going.
Fair enough. But still good. Go ahead and do those things. Wheels wrote in. Apparently Wheels climbed from silver to plat. Listening to our show. So first off, congrats. Then Wheels wrote in and said, I put this improvement down to the following points. Watching the minimap and responding to objectives promptly. Minimap. No longer just saying I'll fill in draft. I think this was my biggest mistake. I now play almost exclusively Kael'thas, Morales, and Tyrael in Hero League, as that's what I'm best at.
That's fantastic. Yep. This is the tip I'm most excited about because we need to broadcast this harder, and I love his selections. Just last night, someone tweeted at me, and they're fantastic progress, and I was like, awesome. Who'd you use for it? And I got a list of 10. And I was like, oh, hang on. This is a great list. You got KT, Morales, and Tyrael. Really, mechanically, in a draft, those should be quite exclusive and would go in certain comps. But in all honesty, in his climb from silver to plat, he had 3 guys, a tank, a healer, and a burst, an assassin, and that's really all you need.
Yeah. And this is exactly what I've been doing. It's funny because we recorded, this is my second show today, and what I recorded this morning was Overwatchers, and we had a lot, the same talk. I even invoked your name, Kyle, saying that, you know, if you just want to climb, yeah, I get it. Overwatch is cool, man. You can swap heroes mid-game. Stop, because you can't play all those heroes. You probably cannot fill half of the slots that need to be filled well. Leave that to someone else. Pick what you're good at. Force someone else to move off of your Soldier 76 if that's what you're into, your Zenyatta in my case. And the same thing goes here. This is something we talk about on Into the Nexus so many times. And how many people now, Kyle, have gotten back to us, ourselves included? I climbed up in the platinum doing this. You climbed up in the masters doing this. It works. It's a good strategy. There's other ways to do it. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be the person that does fill. I commend you. I thank every single person that takes a warrior in my Hero League games. I don't want to do it. It's not for me. But sticking to what you're good at is what you should be doing.
And don't show weakness either.
And do not show weakness. Yeah. Do you have over 1,000 games with Zeratul and your win rate is over 60%? Take that damn.
Things there for me.
Yeah. Why aren't you? Exactly. Stop being polite. This is not a place to be polite. This is a place to get kills. together as a team in favor of the objective.
And
It depends. Yes, exactly. We need a little star graphic that does that. Finally, Wheels also said, if I lose a couple of games in a row and start to get frustrated, I stop playing. We talk about this all the time. Here, this is the only one I kind of take issue with lately because in Heroes and Hearthstone, recently I've just been, it's just about logging the games. It's just about logging the games. If you really do want to climb, you just need to log games and don't become results oriented. Don't let that get into your head. A win is not rewarding you and a loss is not punishing you. It is all a chance to learn. And the more you learn, the better you're going to be. And the only way you're going to do that is by hitting play.
well said.
So do that. And Liz, I get it. I have that problem too. I mean, if it's really like, if you're like sweating and you want to throw your monitor, okay, take a step away. But if your goal is to climb ranks, log games. So, other than that, I'm so stoked to hear this. And Wheels also says, cheers, guys. I look forward to letting you know when I hit Diamond. And we look forward to hearing that. Good luck, dude. Or Doodad. I'm not sure.
Awesome.
So, I believe, Kyle, that more or less wraps up the final Into the Nexus for 2016.
That does. What a year it's been.
It's been a long year. 2017, we have some. We already have some heroes to look forward to. We know we're getting Zul'jin, and we're looking forward to the eSports League revamp.
Yes, which has already begun, but we're gonna see it come into fruition. We're gonna get to see probably another Heroes of the Dorm next year. They just put out their look forward to 2017. Look how much we did in 2016 video.
Sweet. Did they put out the rules for Heroes of the Dorm, and hopefully they're actually worth a darn this year?
They did revamp the rules at the end of last year. So Heroes of the Dorm this year will not have people on established teams. You cannot compete in Heroes of the Dorm and be in the HGC at the same time, I believe.
Ah, thank goodness.
Yeah, that's just fair.
Yes. That just makes sense.
Yeah. So heck, I mean, you know, I couldn't complain. I'd skip Heroes of the Dorm happily if I was making $20,000 a year while in college.
What is it $20,000 per player or per team?
For the retainer we talked about earlier.
Yeah. Is that per player or per team?
Per player.
Oh, per player. Oh, good
Yeah.
God. Yeah. Oof, done, man. All right. Awesome. Well, again, if you want to email us, itncast@gmail.com is the place to do so. Thank you again. Huge thanks to our patrons. You know, the Patreon started in 2015. But 2016 has been fantastic growth for the Patreon. We really appreciate it and hope it keeps growing next year. So if you want to support the show, patreon.com/ITN is the place to do so. Thank you to our producers, Declan H, Cheesy Bob, and we have a new producer now, Tyler W. Thank you very much. Don't forget about the Into the Nexus swag. We've got coffee mugs, wine glasses, pint glasses. Those are at etched.amove.tv. We have an Into the Nexus t-shirt available at shirts.amove.tv. Designed it by myself. Go take a look at it. You can catch us live Thursday nights. We're going back to that at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on twitch.tv/amovetv. And if you can't catch it on Twitch, we're live via just about any device you can think of, thanks to alphageekmedia.com. Follow the show on Twitter at ITNcast. And you've been listening to it all year. So thank you very much for the sweet, sweet tunes from Gorath and Brian Griffith. Gorath did our intro music. Brian Griffith did our original intro music, which is also still our outro music. Thank you both of those artists very much. And Kyle, thanks for hosting with me. Where can folks find you?
You can find me today you can find me at twitch.tv/Kyle Fergusson. I will be doing the solo Q&A show, the Solo Q Hero League, as it can only now be. So I guess it's just the Hero League show. That'll be at 3 p.m. Pacific today. It is always 3 p.m. Pacific on Wednesdays. Hope to see you all there. And, of course, check out KyleFergusson.com for Here's the Storm coaching.
Awesome. Folks, you can follow me on Twitter at GarrettArt. There are 2 R's and 2 T's in Garrett. Everyone forgets the second T. It's okay. I do too sometimes. Not really. It's my name. You can find every other podcast I do at amove.tv. And if you're looking for a graphic designer, my portfolio is available over at nomoonart.com, as well as a form to contact me if you need a graphic designer. So go check that out. And also, we don't run ads on the show at the top of the show, but we've got codes for you guys. ITN over at doghousesystems.com. Losing my words. It's a whole year of talking. You get tired. Use the code ITN over at Doghouse Systems to get a free solid-state hard drive added on to your already amazing gaming rig. This is an addition to the regular hard drive that comes with every system. You can also use the code ITN over at tweakedaudio.com. They make noise-reducing earbuds, headphones, and other listening devices. And if you use ITN over there, you'll get 30% off and free shipping off of your entire order. And that code never expires. So if in like 3 years you're like, all right, I need to get another pair of these for a friend for Christmas, do it. Go for it. Doesn't matter. We thank them for their support. We thank you all for listening. And until next year, good luck and have fun.
Happy New Year.